welcome back to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss. That's the finals of the Korean StarCraft League number... I don't know, spawning right here in the top... spawning right here in the top right corner. Playing with the blue Terran SCVs, joined by the Rebellion icon spinning around on the main command center. Of course, we have none other than ByuN. I think it's like 60, 70, I don't know. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces. We're looking at none other than Classic's main Nexus. Look, all these regular tournaments, okay, they always go up in number over the years. It's actually kind of nuts how for some of the weekly cups, we've now had hundreds of editions. In the early days of StarCraft 2, I used to participate in weekly tournaments as well. And then I realized I was not very good at the game compared to pro gamers. But it was still kind of fun to get, you know, destroyed. There's actually this funny thing where you believe you've gotten good at something, right? I remember I managed to make it to like Master League, maybe like mid-master or so at the time. And I know that it was still kind of a long road to Grandmaster League. I was like, okay, I'm doing all right, right? And you sign up for one of the open cups and you go up against a pro gamer and you get utterly destroyed within about 3 minutes. Yeah, turns out really good players are really good at the game. I used to play quite a bit in the Zotac Cup back in the day. Does anybody remember that? Probably not. Anyways, go for SC2? Yeah, just okay, no, it doesn't matter. Let's see. Both of these players generally don't open too aggressively in the early game. Sometimes we see ByuN obviously messing around with a variety of like Reapers, right? He goes for a bit of aggression now with, I guess, the double gas start, but I don't really expect a ton of proxies. Although there could certainly be like a proxy Stargate at a later time, maybe a proxy Gateway. That also happens in this matchup. Maybe a proxy Rex, but I think overall, considering it's a best of 5, this will probably be mostly macro focused. But we'll find out together. For now, Reactor coming up over here, a single Reaper. No SCV scout from ByuN, but he's going to be using that Reaper to his advantage, and he will scout that everything is normal. Cybercore is done at this point. We have 100 gas. Are we going to build a Twilight? Is that the plan? Oh yeah, it is going to be a Twilight. Alrighty. We've been seeing a lot of Protoss players lately focus a lot on Glaive to Depths, it seems, which is funny. Maybe it's just the games that I've been watching, but for some reason, Glaive to Depths are all the rage right now. It should just be Blink, by the way, but there has been a little bit of variety. Nice little bit of micro there, as we have some Cyclones coming up. Okay. No starport yet. We'll probably see that one starting up right about right now. No, it's a barracks. I was gonna make a start port joke, but alright, fine then. Jeez! Way to make me look like a fool, ByuN. Very disrespectful. That being said though, these Adepts are in a little bit of trouble as soon as the Cyclones come out. Luckily he does shade backwards. He wants to snipe the SCV. Okay. Good control. Lovely control here right ByuN, right? There's already another SCV slotting in that location. And ultimately the early game dance is very normal, but still there's a lot of skill checks going on. There's a lot of moments where this game can accidentally be over, and even though it rarely happens at the highest level, this is the type of stuff where if you would play in the ESO Open Cup, or for example the KSL, and you would find yourself going up against these guys, they would have already destroyed you. Like if you go up against ByuN, and you are not at least a Grandmaster League player, there's a very good chance the Reapers and the Cyclones alone, like any of the one-base shenanigans, would already be a bit too much. There's always these skill checks going on, even at the highest level. Rarely do we see players just both sitting back and macroing up. Especially in this matchup, it's pretty aggressive in the earlier stages of the game. So 4 Cyclones is a bit funky. As soon as Blink finishes, these guys will probably die, but I guess if there's not a lot of Stalkers out, life is manageable. In the meantime, by the way, Classic did of course sneak towards the left side over here, and we'll probably see the third Nexus building there in a moment. He has 4 gateways in total, so you know what? This is not him going into a Nexus here just yet. I mean, he may still plant one down. Yeah, he probably has to, but this will have to be some sort of committed aggression as well from him, because that Nexus has been delayed in favor of additional gateways. So we're going up to 4 gates here. Which usually means that you want to be sending everything you've got towards the other side of the map. A relatively unpopular build as of late. This used to be the gold standard for like 2 years. Max specs and Hero in particular looked incredibly good. The only problem is they played it so much that the opponents got much better at defending it as well. Then again, it's been a little bit. Most of the top tier Protosses go about 3 gateways these days, which is still a very similar looking build, but not quite as aggressive. Obviously, it depends though. Yeah? Big blink forward. There's no siege tank available over here, but there are a lot of Marines. That explains that second... Oh my god, that second barracks. And this is falling flat on its face. Can he get the Cyclone? No. Cyclone will live for now as well. 7 Stalkers going down just like that is actually one of the worst starts you can have right now. As classic. The main problem though is that the siege tank production is very, very late. Okay, decides to go into the main. Blink is already done. Alright. For now, I think the bio army is sufficient. And this is an important defense right here for ByuN. Yep, it'll be up to him soon to dictate the pacing of the game. Nice observer scout. Is he gonna try and intercept this? He could have tried, but instead he wants to go for the guaranteed damage, though it may come at the cost of the prism. Not quite. Good control right there by Classic. Low HP SCV over there. Pick him up, get on out. Maybe not. He did also see that medevac leave, right? So he should be more than okay. In the meantime, on the other side, we do have the charge upgrade coming. And I'm really expecting a couple of units over here. I mean, he had full vision of it. He sees it right now as well with some perfectly positioned observers. Classic has a good understanding of what's going on, and he decides to send everything that he's got back home. All right. Oh, don't lose the prism. It's okay. The main problem with losing the prism is that it takes up time in the robo facility. So it's not even the cost of the prism, it's that it cuts into your Immortal and Colossus production. Because he needs to make another prism. Which means that he's gonna have less robo units. Okay. So ultimately, a lot of kills, a lot of damage done, but not really in one player's favor, I don't think. The main issue right here for ByuN is that he does not have a third command center. So when you're trading armies like that, yeah, he's gonna be pulling the boys as well. He has decided that he needs to go all in. Trading armies is obviously in favor of Classic. There is already charge. I think if these zealots charge in onto the tanks, this could just be game over already. Classic though wants to buy as much time as possible. Okay, nicely done right here by ByuN. Intercepts those zealots, and that honestly may make this game entirely different. A Purification Nova would be nice. Disruptor is coming. That Prism obviously fell, so this all makes it a little bit more difficult. The more time, though, that Classic buys, the better this should be. There's actually no backup pylon. Yeah, no backup pylon for the shield battery overcharge. He decides to commit anyways. That pylon is left at just 2 HP. Siege tank's in a little bit of trouble. Yeah, I think this is going to be more than enough. Not only does Classic maintain all of his workers, he also kills 22 SCVs in the process. Those were all pulled across the map. And a nice aggressive game right here from ByuN. Not a proxy game. But there's a reason why at the highest level, 2 base all-ins are not played all too often. It's a nice way to start a series. I think it's nice to have in your arsenal of strats. But ultimately, there's just not enough. Yeah, if there was a third command center, obviously the attack would not hit nearly as hard. In the meantime, I mean, look at this. Classic has been mining over here for a while longer. ByuN is gonna try and put all of his eggs in one basket and try and just win with this attack. I mean, his army is still relatively large. It's just not good enough. Marine Marauder Medevac is alright, but when you're mining significantly more as the Protoss in this instance, right? We're basically getting roughly 10 zealots a minute more than the opponent. He's actually going back to SCV production. Okay. He's been making SCVs for a little bit again. I actually expected ByuN to tap out. With that attack not working, I thought he was going to tap out, but he decides to stay in the game. More power to him. That is one of the most common questions that I see all the time, where players are like, yo, why do the pro gamers leave? Like, why are they out of the game? Well, this match is basically over, right? But I'm with you. There is certainly a chance that ByuN or Classic here makes a gigantic error. right? There is a chance that this is still reversible. Main problem is that you're playing a best-of-5 series, so... yeah, if you know you're gonna have to win 3 games in a row, or 3 games in total, it does make it, stamina-wise, right? Sometimes a smart idea to just tap out and go into the next game. But fighting until the bitter end is appreciated for sure. Ultimately, I think this is just gonna make things worse though for ByuN, yeah. He gave it a shot, decided to stick around for a bit longer, but Classic is a little bit too good for that. Golden Aura is going to be game number 2. I had to announce it like that. Golden Aura! There's actually a new Team Liquid map contest currently in the works. It seems like we may very well be getting new maps at some point in the future. I don't know when. I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to last, but I've seen some of the map makers publish the maps that they have been working on, which is pretty hype. Some of them looked really good as well. Not every single one of them, but some of them did look really good. Actually, I think Golden Aura is a fine map. I think Alcyone is a good map. I think Oceanborn is a good map. I think pretty much all the maps in the current map pool are good maps. The problem is that we've seen them so many times, right? We have seen so many of them so many times. Classic, by the way, even though I don't really consider ByuN to be much of a cheeser, Classic is not thinking about that at all. He is very worried about ByuN proxying everything. He did the same in the previous game. Scouting around his entire side of the map, just making sure that everything is A-okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So, we will probably, after the Esports World Cup, if I were to make a guess, I don't know, I don't have any insider information or whatever, but I can imagine that we are gonna have like a balance update and then maybe also a new map pool. I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna be in that weird scenario where like currently the maps are considered to be a little bit Terran favored. So maybe the map makers are gonna make maps that aren't as good for Terran to try and balance that out. But there's a very good chance that like the upcoming balance patch for StarCraft 2 will also address some of those advantages. And sometimes you get an accidental double nerf. That's happened many times in the history of StarCraft. Where like the map makers are like, okay, we'll do it. And then the balance design is like, okay, we'll do it. And then they end up both doing it. And yeah, the entire game can turn into a bit of a mess. Anyways, only time will tell. But currently, the map pool is considered to be quite good for Terran overall. Maps like this though, Golden Aura, I don't think it's... We can have a quick little peek. I don't really want to make any claims, but I don't think it's too extreme. Yeah, so this map has a, for this particular matchup, played at the tournament level, it has a 51% advantage for Terran. It's not huge, but a tiny little advantage for Terran overall. Twilight Council opener once again here for Classic. So not opting for a Stargate at all. Curious about that. Just not going Stargate at all, just straight Twilight Council again. I mean, don't get me wrong, Blink openers are real good. The main problem you run into oftentimes is that if you go up against somebody who wants to go for like a Widowmine drop or, for example, a Raven, something like that, the Raven hanging out over here or the Medevac with 2 mines inside of it can just hang out in the dead space, and it can be quite annoying for the Protoss to try and deal with that. But for now, everything is A-okay. Yeah, the problem with looking at the map statistics is that there's a... So it takes into account all tournament games. And even though the tournament players, generally speaking, are the best players in the game, the average tournament player is not Maru, right? Like, the average tournament player is not ByuN. They're not Klim, right? There should almost be gradations as far as that goes, too. Anyways, we have a couple of the Reapers jumping in. 2 probes going down for now. In the meantime, there's also a couple of roasty boys over here. A couple of fire trucks. Although, they're the opposite of a fire truck. Because, anyways. 2 probes, 3 probes. I like that safety battery a lot. A lot of Protoss players do skip it, but Classic. A very classic Protoss. I mean... It's nice here for ByuN, but he's also losing quite a lot of stuff for all of this, right? So, essentially, with all of this being cleaned up, it's kind of like In the Terran versus Zerg matchup, whenever Terrans YOLO in a bunch of Hellions into a mineral line, sure, you may be able to deal some damage, and sure, it might even be cost efficient, but now ByuN has to sit back. I mean, he's gonna have okay, fine. He's gonna have a Banshee flying around, fair enough, but in general, this is now going to be a very passive early game, and I don't think 4 probes really is worthwhile. That one shield battery, dude. It's decked out in gold. Look at that. Solid gold over here, by the way. It's not one of that... No, it's not that cheap stuff. I don't know anything about gold, but that thing is definitely... Maybe I should know more about gold before I can make an analogy. I was gonna say something stupid, but you know what? I decided, no. Lowko, you've already fooled yourself too many times. Let's not do it. Maybe that's why we're on Golden Aura. Maybe Golden Aura is just for, you know... Maybe it's a gold mine. Maybe that's what it is. Two gateways this time around, by the way, for a third Nexus. I always love this. The 2-gate expand is kind of what ByuN has enabled now. Normally, Protosses don't really enjoy going 2-gate expand all too much. I mean, it's something that's played, but it's a little dangerous. But with ByuN giving away those early game units... Classic knows that there's not going to be much follow-up aggression other than like a Banshee or maybe like one medevac drop. So he decided to make that third Nexus before adding on the extra gates. So his economy is already booming. Now here comes ByuN again. He's once more just on 2 barracks. Yeah, two barracks, 2 command center. He starts up a 3rd command center right now. Okay, the Banshees have found a bit of an angle. Where's the observers? We have 3 of them. 1 was inside of the main base. 5 probes go down. Stalkers over here have a bit of a standoff against the siege tanks. Okay. And these Banshees are making the game a lot better for ByuN. Okay. Not bad whatsoever. Yeah, map design is actually such a critical component. I know I always say this, but it really is not something that's discussed very often in the StarCraft 2 community in general. Like, I see a lot of people complaining about balance, and if you go to the BattleNet forums or the StarCraft 2 subreddit, there's always a lot of complaining going on. But rarely do people complain about the maps specifically, right? So there are some maps that are just much better for one race compared to the other. And it has a very significant impact on the game, but nobody ever really discusses that. People are like, Widow Mines. Widow Mines. That's what I picture. That's what I imagine people sound like when they write those posts. Blizzard Widow Mines. The funny thing is, when they double nerfed the Widow Mine, it wasn't even really played that much anymore in this matchup. Like, overall, it was rarely played. I mean, it's played as much as it's played right now. But the internet warriors got their ways. It affected Terran versus Zerg more than it affected Protoss versus Terran, but anyways. Here we go, ByuN once more, ready to go for a push. He does have a 3rd Nexus this time around. Okay. Poor little Jimmy over there. Yeah, those siege tanks are difficult to break. ByuN wants to go up towards the high ground. He has to make a decision, though. We have 1 Immortal, but that's it. The Immortal just spawned. A couple Zealots are going to try and go around the side. Oh, ByuN hopes that he can pull the trigger here on that Protoss army. He's waiting for 1 more warp in. We have loads of Zealots, but the question is there enough Protoss to overwhelm all of this? I think there might just barely be enough. Yeah, the siege tanks are getting overwhelmed right now, and them being taken out of the equation. Okay, makes it defendable now. Maybe, though, ByuN can still get the kill on the Nexus. Shield battery is still unpowered. The Widow Mines have already fired. Reinforcing bio units do show up. Getting the kill on the Nexus would essentially be GG. He wants to go for guaranteed damage instead. The probes are going to be the next target. Many of them end up going down. And you know what? That is game over. I don't really see Classic being able to get back into the swing of things here. Much like the previous game, you can stick in if you want to. You can hang out over here for a little bit longer. But ultimately, this is too big of an advantage for the opponent to overcome. Alcyone is next. ByuN is doing the thing that we used to see a lot in the early days of StarCraft 2. He's building a barracks right outside of his main base. This is just to scare the Protoss, but sadly for him, he's doing it in the one game where Classic is not probe scouting. So, Classic has been very diligent, checking his side of the map, sending workers across the map early to make sure that everything is normal. He is gonna check the back of the natural. I mean, that's a very ambitious spot for a barracks, but fair enough. He may still get across the map eventually, but ByuN is gonna have to make the flight of shame. Yeah, there's a pilot inside of the barracks that will be forced to take off and go back into the main base, essentially achieving nothing. Okay, so the Reaper comes across at the normal timing. It will be double Reaper. So the reason, by the way, ByuN won the previous game in the end was the Banshee harassment, right? Like, those Banshees came in and they dealt a lot more damage than the other units. I don't think I've really liked the early game so much for ByuN so far. Like, he's been trying his best to get damage in with Cyclones and with a bunch of Reapers and Hellions and all the rest of it. He's just throwing stuff to the other side of the map. In game number 1, all of it got denied. In game number 2, half of it got denied for just a handful of probes. And then he got a bit lucky with the Banshees, with the detection and the Stalkers being out of position. So I'm not in love with that opener overall, to be honest. Like, these random openers where you just make a bunch of stuff and you just hope for the best. But let's see. Oh, nice targeting right there by Classic. Getting the kill on that Hellion is really good. Straight blink once again for Classic, not messing around with Stargates or proxy gateways or anything like that. There's a robo facility coming up. A Cyclone is building. And he's once more getting ready, ByuN that is, for a random bit of aggression. A random bit of aggression into defense against Blink. 2 workers so far, 3 workers, 4 workers, 5? Okay, welcome to my educational cast. You can watch this with your entire family now. If you have kids, I know many of my viewers are getting a little bit older now, many people that have families and kids and all that. We learned to count by killing probes. It's not, you know, it's not the most family-friendly way of teaching your kid how to count. But 1 probe, 2 probes, 3, all the way up to 9 probes. That's a lot. Not bad at all. Considering that was only 2 Hellions and 3 Reapers. Got 9 probes and 2 Adepts. That is significantly better than the previous game. And ByuN is gonna go into a very similar follow-up. Still no 3rd command center. We'll probably see that start up right around the same time as in the previous match. And now suddenly, this aggression here from Classic is gonna have to put in quite a bit more work. He's only got 2 gateways again. I'm assuming we'll see him taking a 3rd Nexus here momentarily. He's dancing at the front currently, but this is before Blink. Yeah, now the Blink finishes up, but obvious... Oh, okay. That was one of the Blinks of all time. I think he just all-army hotkeyed actually and tried to get his reinforcements here a bit quicker. Although it did look a little bit silly. He's gonna try and get into the main base. There's 1 siege tank currently set up. Gets 1 SCV. He needs to get like 5 SCVs in order to justify this. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we get 6. Not bad. If he can get a siege tank too, I'm gonna... Oh, he's trying to get the siege tank to deal friendly fire. Recall on this too. In the meantime, the Banshee has arrived on the other side of the map. Only 1 of the Stalkers made it back home. I think he's just entirely unhappy with how this has gone. Also, apparently ByuN decided to click the return to game button upon GG. Because he is hit with this very similar screen over here. He decided to go back into the game and killed some more probes after the match ended. Alright, Classic. Not happy with that previous game. It's one of the worst moments when you realize there's a cloaked Banshee inside of your mineral line and you have no detection. If you have no detection, Banshees can kill quite a lot of stuff. Yeah. StarCraft 101. he's not really getting his groove, right? Like, it's one of those things where you see this a lot as well in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup, where if Protoss just has a poor start, if the first 4, 5, 6 minutes or so of the game don't go particularly well, it's essentially game over. It's really difficult to get back into the swing of things when you are slightly behind as Protoss. I think that's actually where a lot of the frustration is at, especially from ladder heroes, ladder Protosses out there. Because if you play what seems to be a perfect early game, you're pretty much even going into the mid game. But if you take any damage whatsoever, it feels like you're pretty far behind. Whereas on the flip side, if Classic deals a little bit of damage to the Terran, if he deals a little bit of damage to a hypothetical Zerg player too, Zerg and Terran can usually recover quite handily. Protoss doesn't really seem to have that luxury so much. But obviously, for pro gamers, the way that you solve that is by not making mistakes. That is how they have been overcoming things. Ooh, for many, many years now. As Classic decides to go for a cheeky little pylon right outside of the main base of ByuN. It is once again a double gas opener here for the Terran player. He's going to be able to get the command center done. Okay, we're going to go for a more conventional start here for ByuN this time around, and I don't mind it at all. The idea being, of course, that he has seen Blink Stalker every single game so far. Back to back to back. This time around, however, we're going to have a triple gate opener. So this is triple gates in total. Obviously, you can use that forward pylon as a way to warp in. And he should be in a decent position, right? It depends on what the Widow Mines do. If the Widow Mines get a lot of damage done, if suddenly, for example, we see a few Stalkers walking into the Widow Mines, that could be an absolute disaster. There's already a probe, man. This is the probe that made all of this infrastructure. This guy is ready to sacrifice himself. Look at this guy. Ay, ay, ay. Probius, the hero of the Protoss, sacks himself for the greater good. Can you get in, though, Classic? I don't think so. Oh, that's so brave. Dude, this is such a ByuN move as well. He's like, okay, gotta defend it. Everybody unburrow now. ByuN is still hoping that his opponent doesn't realize it, but Classic can obviously look at the little lack of the potholes here. He's gonna try and send these guys in. He now realizes that those Widow Mines are nowhere to be seen. They are currently most of their way across the map. Keep in mind that there's no blink or anything like that, but the front door is wide open. Good guy, ByuN. Terrans are always very nice. When a stranger shows up at their front door, they invite him in. And I think that's beautiful. 7 SCVs go down. How much damage can be done in the meantime on the other side of the map? Nothing. Well, 2 probes probably, but nothing much. That medevac is gonna live in the bottom right-hand corner. Look at this cheeky little dude. Sorry, buddy. Okay, so this is kind of what I was trying to point out earlier. When you go for the Blink Stalker opener, or, well, lack of any tech opener, you don't really have an easy way to deal with the medevac other than parking units over here in the corner. There is a Robo Bay coming up as well. Classic is thinking about making a third Nexus. Widowmine drop goes in, but nothing all too crazy. Nicely managed right now by Classic. His early game aggression did not achieve a ton, but still, it got the ball rolling, right? ByuN is going to be ready to go for a push here in a moment, though. He doesn't really have any upgrades yet, so I'm not exactly sure how confident he will be. Yeah, he's going to do the switcheroo over here. He might actually just decide to sit back for the foreseeable future. Just move out with the Banshees. Wait until the Stimpack research is done, which is still ages away. Turn on the green light. There it is. Stimpack is go. Third Nexus. About a third or so of the way done at this point. There's a Reaper. Wow. Reaper got surrounded by probes. That's a pathetic Reaper. Good thing he died. He'd be bringing shame to the rest of the Terran army. ByuN didn't want to have anybody else see that. I get it, I get it. I get it. Fear the Reaper, man. Get surrounded by probes. Yeah, this is embarrassing. That is just a terrible look for Terran morale. Okay. Now, ByuN already got lucky with Banshees a couple times so far. 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kill. Alright. There's no cloak this time. It's a very ambitious play to try and kill the Stalker. He's gonna get it, though. Okay. Well, here goes our Terran. Stimpak, mostly done. Combat shields is coming up on the back of it, +1 infantry weapons. All of it is completely out of sync. Third command center starts up right now, and he hasn't yet seen the proxy gate. That's a little awkward. This SCV will probably scoot around it at some point, and he will get a glimpse. Yeah, he now sees that proxy gateway, and he realizes where all of those units have been coming from, but there's already a Colossus available in the meantime. All these timings are completely out of whack. Nice splitting right here by Classic, trying to mitigate that splash damage of the tanks. And Extended Thermal Lance or not, Classic shows us that even with a short-ranged Colossus, he can still put in work. Stimpak is going to be met with the ranged upgrade for Colossi in a moment. He wants to really shut this down ASAP, and he does get it done. Blink is going to be coming up. Blink will be nice, but all of these upgrade timings are kind of wild right now, right? So you can see here that ByuN is also a little confused as to how much there is of the Protoss. Because of this early game, he did not quite yet expect a Colossus. Oh, this could be really bad, ByuN! Oh my god, dude. I thought he was going to fly into the Stalkers. Luckily for him, he boosted it and only flew it about half a screen away. The Colossi, though, are still going to put in a ton of work. Command Center just finished over on the low ground, at least. So, ByuN is going to be able to get that thing out of there. If these units would have shown up a little bit earlier, or if the Command Center was started a little bit later, there's many different variables that could have made this essentially game over. Instead, right now, Classic gets the damage done that he can get done, and he decides to go back home. Plants down a Nexus over at the 6 o'clock position. Marine Marauder drop coming in. You know what? These units could have gotten absolutely destroyed, and in the end, he actually gets pretty lucky with them. Kills a Nexus. Or cancels a Nexus. Laser Giraffe number 3 coming up. Templar Archives. We have a forge building. Okay. So we may very well, get this, we may very well have ourselves a bit of a macro game here. Yeah. These guys have been in each other's face the entire time in this series so far. They've been trying their very best to get the game over with as quickly as possible, but I don't think that'll be the case right here on Oceanborn. The production is kicking off. Ghost production has also begun right now here for ByuN, which is really lovely. We'll probably see an armory here in a moment, and then also maybe even a second NG bay. He's gonna need those to continue playing the late game. 4th Command Center starts up. Yep, and there we go. Armory together with the NG bay. Life will be a-okay. Classic. Oh, that's a quick Stargate. We'll have to see what the plan with this is. So, for Protoss, usually, the main problem they run into is that late-game Terran army. Mass Liberator is tricky to counter. If you are trying to transition towards Tempest and Terran is already sitting at Liberator tech, it's usually pretty bad. It's already too late. You kind of have to get it done before that. It could also be that he is just doing the Stargate right now to go into a quick fleet beacon and go into the Mama ship? Maybe he's just getting it ready. Maybe he just wants to deal with any medevac drops or anything like that a little bit more confidently, but we'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan with the Stargate is. Okay, no. It's a fleet beacon straight into a second Stargate. So this is a quick transition. Normally, Protoss sits around on Stalkers and Zealots for a whole lot longer. But apparently not Classic, not today. And that's cool. Curious to see if it's gonna work out though, because those timing attacks with 2-2, for example, hit like an absolute truck. It could also just be straight up carrier play, by the way. Another good option. I'm just a bit afraid. So, I think, generally speaking, those Terran timings are really scary. But Classic also knows the style that ByuN has been going for as of late. In most of the games that I've seen ByuN play, either he goes for that hyper-aggressive early game stuff that he's been doing so far in this series, or he decides, yo, I am gonna sit back and I am gonna chill. And then I'm gonna chill some more, and I'm gonna chill some more, and I'm gonna chill some more. So maybe Classic is thinking the same thing right now. He's like, yo, this guy is gonna chill some more. If that's the case, I have some time to prepare a bit of a SkyToss fleet. Now, the scan in the main base, though, is going to reveal exactly what is needed. ByuN is ready to go on the offensive immediately. Maybe the original plan wasn't to go for a big push, but I think he probably wants to try and see at least if he can get something done on the other side of the map. Photon cannons coming up in random locations just to make sure that all of this is a little bit more defendable. Mama is also building. Vikings, though, are coming out 4 at a time right now. They're going to be amazing against carriers, but they're also going to be good against the mothership. They're going to be amazing against, I don't know, Colossal. They're going to be great against everything that Protoss is currently producing. Second armory coming up. That's kind of cool. Getting the double upgrades going. We may actually have a SkyToss versus Sky Terran army here in this particular game. Command center's coming up. So I actually thought ByuN wanted to go out and test the waters because he scanned that perfectly. But I think he looked at this and he's like, okay, this is already too late. Like, this transition is already underway. I've scanned it, yes, but I'm actually not going to address it. If that's the case, what is his plan? He wants to go into double upgrades here. Yep, we're going 3-3 as well for the biological units. He wants to go into the additional armory research here. Command centers are coming up 3 at a time. He is just playing full late game. Couple leftover units here on the left side of the map for Classic. ByuN is going to start up a bunch of missile turrets too, much like those photon cannons. He starts up a bunch of missile turrets in the middle of the map. It's funny how, like, the first 7 minutes of this game, these guys were just fighting each other with everything they had. And now they're like, oh no, excuse me. Oh, no, you go ahead. Oh, you go ahead. Suddenly we are pretending to go for attacks, but not actually attacking at all. Oh. Ay. Ghosts are actually such good units, man. One of the best spellcasters in the game. Also has a killer auto attack. Not bad. The High Templar can learn a thing or two. Their auto attacks are basically water balloons. They deal no damage. Alright. Well, it's gonna be Classic, who is ready to send some of his units towards the other side. How many Templar do we have? Okay, it's 8 Templar versus 8 Ghosts at the moment. Mama shows up. Vikings are also really quite powerful. Very nice to control. Keep in mind that the Ghosts have a skill called EMP. That's the one right over there. That allows them to remove energy out of the Templar very quickly. So you gotta make sure your Templar are close enough to be able to storm the Vikings and the bio, but then at the same time not so close that they can get EMP'd. Still though, this is a really powerful army, and in a straight up engagement, ByuN does not have the clear-cut victory. There's a Ghost coming in from the back. I love this. This should be an EMP man. This guy is an EMP guy. Here we go. Boom, boom, double EMP. There's still a bunch of storms available though. The mothership activates its cloaking. Time Warp goes down. ByuN has to retreat through that bubble, which is pretty horrible. And in the meantime, the Vikings are not really used very optimally at all. Mothership, of course, still dies because that's what she does. Of course she dies. You really thought there was going to be a big fight, and it was... Nah, the Mothership, of course, dies. Vikings, though, in a world of trouble, and I think Classic is still winning this engagement. He does also have a proxy over here on the left side of the map. He's using that for some quick reinforcements. The upgrading here is going real well as well for Classic. Vikings, though, still coming out 4 at a time. I don't love the positioning over here of a lot of these units. Yes, the command center disappears, but a lot of the big, expensive units for the Protoss player, too. Classic basically just... What? He just trailed so many units behind that. That seemed a bit unnecessary. Great catch, of course, for ByuN. He saw the attack move to the 12 o'clock position, and he realized, yo, I can just, yeah, kill all of the expensive units. Still, though, Classic has been mining a ton more than ByuN overall, and he can easily replace the lost units. 25, 26 SCVs, 27 SCVs go down. This planetary looks like it will finish, but obviously another command center up north is needed. ByuN is sending that over in that direction right now, but Classic intercepts it before it can land. Another mama ship is coming. More carriers are on the production tab. And this wasn't even their final form. StarCraft 2 is basically an anime. Yeah, it's basically an anime. Can we storm the Vikings? I always like seeing that. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. No reaction from ByuN. Micro Jackson a little bit confused about all of the aggression all over the map. Forced to split his attention. He takes a lot of damage to the face. And here come the carriers again. I'm actually surprised with the aggression here from Classic. Usually Skytles is played a little bit slower. A little bit more laid back, but apparently Classic has decided, nah, we are just sending stuff. We're gonna go across the map. And at this point, ByuN's army has absolutely plummeted. I mean, it's still reasonably sized, right? So he still has a good amount of supply overall, but the income is just no longer sufficient. I mean, he's got a lot of mules mining right now, so the income is gonna be sufficient for a little bit. But as soon as the mules time out, this income is gonna go heavily in favor of Protoss once again. I mean, look at the minimap right now. Classic has taken pretty much 50% of the map. A little less than that. You can certainly transfer some workers, though, to get a bit more optimal mining, but... New Ghost Academy comes up. What do you do right now if you're ByuN? Well, he hasn't made any SCVs in a while, so I'm fairly sure his goal is just to make a really strong army and hope he can catch the Protoss player as he overextends. He fires up the +3/+2 upgrades, fair enough. How many command centers is he on? 8 orbitals. Actually, you know what? I didn't realize he was sitting at 8 orbital commands. That is very recoverable. Even though this game looks like it's mostly over, it really isn't. I mean, it might. But I don't think it's that clear-cut. ByuN has been pushed back to his little quadrant of the map, sure. But his economy is still reasonable. As long as he can secure another expansion, it's gonna be okay. He obviously cannot afford losing this one again. He needs this base over here on the left, I think. The entire Protoss army is currently up north. ByuN has evened up the supply count once again. Classic coming in. Trying to find an angle, doesn't quite get it. But as long as that base over there is not mining, I think this is all quite manageable. Cloaking has once again been activated on the Mama ship. Relatively long cooldown. 10 SCVs go down. Classic is just dancing over here, man. I think Classic is cruising at this point. Oh, much like the flank earlier with a Ghost, we had a Templar flank as well. Loads of SCVs are going down, 25 in addition to the ones that already fell. Another storm at the bottom of that ramp. Most of the energy at this point has disappeared out of those Templar. We do have a time warp available, but Classic is not even using it yet. He knows he can easily retreat if he really needs to. Fight as well on the left side of the map. That's where the Protoss reinforcements have been going. The additional Skytles upgrades are going to happen here before too long as well. Mothership may go down again, because of course, it's a big fight. Of course the Mothership dies. You really thought the Mothership was not going to... Of course the Mothership dies. But ultimately, right now, there's more Medevacs remaining than bio units. Yeah, and this is a nice recall. ByuN is getting the most out of this scenario. But ultimately, I don't really see a good way out. Okay, ByuN doesn't either. GG. It's Classic who gets a point on the board. And that means that it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 5 series. It takes place on site Delta. Okay. We had some very quick games, and then just now, a pretty long one as well. Generally speaking, site Delta is very straightforward. A fun final map, actually, because I don't really think this is heavily in favor of one or the other. Anything can be done on this map, although usually it's quite macro-focused. Maybe that favors Classic a little bit, because he's clearly the one that wants to be playing macro. And it's constantly ByuN that's like, nuh-uh! We're not doing that! ByuN, though, is doing it. Finally, we've got ourselves an early third command center. Would you look at that? This is like the opposite of cheese. I mean, it's the opposite of aggressive cheese. This is like economy cheese instead. I don't think Classic is going to be able to find out. Yeah, he's looking around right now, ByuN that is. It's a Stargate opener as well. Stargate, though, has not been scouted. And we're gonna have a Phoenix opener. Okay, so Phoenix is pretty much also a massive indication he wants to play a macro game. Doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but it always feels to me like you want to play a macro game. Because usually Phoenixes are used to, like, not die. Like, it's a great strat if you don't want to lose. Assuming you micro it well. Now, that is the big assumption. There's a million different ways in which this can go wrong for Protoss, but usually this leads towards, yep, a robo facility and then also a robotics bay. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, ByuN is going triple Rex. So triple barracks, triple command center, 3 of everything. Yeah. This is the Terran Trinity. Isn't that beautiful? So these guys are basically gonna... Like, they want to play macro, but rather than typing 10 minutes no rush in the chat, they decided to basically force it this way. Yeah, that used to be a common thing. Is that still a thing in, like, Command & Conquer? Hello. 10 minutes. NR, please. Imagine if that was a thing in StarCraft 2. By the 10-minute mark, players would be maxed out with a bank. You would, you would be playing against Zerg players with 150 drones. They would be turning, like... At minute 9, they'd be turning 50 drones into spine crawlers and spore crawlers, and you can't do anything. Yeah, Zerg would be very overpowered, I think, in 10 minutes, no rush. Followed probably by Protoss, because Chrono Boost is not to be underestimated. Anyways. It's time to send the Phoenixes across the map. One of the most beautiful units in the game. Are they? I actually don't know. They always kind of look fragile to me. They're actually one of the tankiest Protoss units out there. HP-wise. But they always look kind of fragile. The paper planes of the Protoss. The PPP. Protoss paper planes. And in the meantime, there's a Colossus indeed building. So nicely done here so far by Classic, getting 4 SCV kills. Not bad whatsoever. What's the most beautiful StarCraft 2 unit in the game? Like, if you had to date one StarCraft 2 unit, what would it be? Follow-up question, why would it be the Nidus Worm? Yeah, there's something about the Nidus Worm. Yeah. Anyways. We've got ourselves the Twilight Council now on the production tab together with the Forge. And in the meantime, on the other side, ByuN is gonna go into the concussive shells research after finishing the Stimpak and the combat shields already. +1 is coming up. Yeah, you want to try and go for a move out at some point, but the problem is that as soon as you move out with these units, the Protoss will move in. You can leave some of your army behind, but that's kind of the thing with Protoss. And attacking into them, right? You kind of need all of your stuff in one big ball in order for it to be effective. So when you're moving with about half your Terran army, I mean, you can maybe do like a medevac drop or something like that, but you're still playing against Phoenixes. So if the Phoenixes find your medevac drop, that is also kind of GG. So apparently ByuN is going to try and test the waters. He's doing it with essentially the +1 upgrade finishing up. So it should finish up by the time he gets across. Yeah, he doesn't... Okay, he doesn't really want to take any risks. He knows the siege tanks are not safe. The medevacs may get intercepted. Nicely sniped here so far, though, by ByuN. Defends everything at home, and then in the meantime also kills 2 of those paper planes. Marauder's a little bit tankier than the other units he's been picking up so far, but ultimately, Terran is going to go for a push. So this is not really 10 minutes no rush, it's more like 7.5 minutes no rush, with Protoss trying to slow it down, however much he can. Now, he already does have the extended thermal lens for the Colossus. He already has a 4th Nexus building at the bottom of the map. Charge is just about to finish up as well, which is a big upgrade. +1 is not too far behind. And if these 2 upgrades finish up, it should be a relatively easy hold for Classic. ByuN obviously knows he's been delayed for a while. He's going to try and do a boost buy, but great positioning right here on that pylon. Protoss is going to be able to respect this and fly on over in that direction pretty quickly. Remember the most recent balance patch, one of the changes they made to the game? He's trying to get a medevac. Gets the medevac. They increased the sight radius of the pylon by +1. Which was kind of laughed at by a lot of the community. It's one of the most insignificant changes you can make to the game, but you know what? Protoss have been making great use of it. +1 sight range on a pylon sounds insignificant, but it allows them to see those drops coming in a little bit quicker. ByuN gets out of there, but it's always on a razor's edge. It's very easy to lose everything, and I guess props to ByuN for not losing everything. But that was still not something you can really consider to be a successful attack. Problem is that next time you go across the map, there will be Storm as well. And that is going to be, in addition to those Colossi and the Archons dealing splash damage, this Protoss army is only going to get better. There's the fleet beacon again. Look at that. So Classic actually transitioning to that really quite quickly. He did the same thing in the previous game on Oceanborn. A lot of Protoss is... I don't know. I've seen so many games where Protoss sort of gets stuck on playing a ground army. And it's not that the ground army isn't good enough. It's just that if the game goes on for a long time, it doesn't really seem to work that well, especially when Protoss goes up against Mass Liberator. So look at that, similar transition again from Classic. This time around he already had a Stargate, because he opened Phoenixes. So these, I guess carriers is what it's likely going to be. They should even hit the battlefield a little bit quicker. A lot of Protosses mess around with Dark Shrine at this stage in the game instead. I see players like, for example, MechSpecs get a lot of value with that, but apparently Classic not really enjoying that all too much. +1 air, and there's the carriers. Starport 2.0 though coming up right here for ByuN. He's adding on additional reactors. He will be able to start pumping out those Vikings 4 at a time. He's gonna need them. Now the problem is, has he seen this? No, he hasn't quite seen it. That's a Phoenix from earlier that he saw. He's scanning the front right now and he sees this army. There's not a lot of buffer. That means that either a lot of the Zealots are currently on the other side of the map, or they don't exist. In this particular instance, there's not that many of them. There's a group of them around, I guess, but nothing all too crazy. Mama ship coming up again. Nexus in the far bottom left is about halfway done. A little bit more than halfway done. Second armory coming up here for ByuN, who will probably be going into the double Sky Terran upgrades again. Nice catch right here for the Terran. He finds a bunch of the Zealots rather in the top right hand corner. Observer will get the Knight. Couple Zealots here on the left side of the map as well. Ready to do mostly a sacrifice, to be honest. Like, they are ready to open up some supply to allow a third carrier to be built. Because right now, both players are maxed. Second Cybercore coming up as well. Just finished. Second Cybercore is just there for the air upgrades. Okay, so 10 minutes no rush. I mean, basically done right now. This is the StarCraft equivalent of 10 minutes no rush. Neither player really wanted to fight. But considering we're now 12 minutes into the match, very few units have actually gone down. And many of those units were just made as like a safety precaution. Now the mothership immediately gets split off from the rest. Yeah. Mom is getting kicked out of the nest. Usually it's the other way around. I don't understand the relationships of Protoss either. Normally it's the mother that kicks the kids out, but nope. Nope, nope, the kids kicked out mom. And that's a little weird. Maybe she wants to go for the double recall. The mothership has an ability that allows her to mass recall her children. I always thought Protoss were highly sophisticated, but maybe that's not what it is. I know there's some insects that do the same thing too. Like ants and stuff that kick out the extra queens to start their own broods elsewhere. I mean, I guess insects are highly sophisticated. Where did she go? Oh, geez, Mom. Mom, what are you doing? Okay, she's just hanging out in the corner. Now, this is a cool idea from Classic, but the problem is that there's also just these men with guns. And the men with guns are doing a really good job. Planetary Fortress also helping out quite a bit. A storm will be used, but the Nexus has already disappeared, and with it, the extra units. Where are the probes going? Classic is gonna send the probes out across the map already. This seems a bit early for a probe sacrifice, but they have been brought to... My god, that is an absolute massacre. The comment... What? What just happened? What just happened here? There's Mama. Mama is indeed gonna recall the Brood. Or Protoss. Time Warp goes down onto the Planetary Fortress. So that means that those SCVs are gonna have a hard time escaping. In the meantime, another Nexus has gone. Send the other probes to the other side of the map, dude. Send them in. Anyways, Command Center has disappeared. The recall is indeed going to complete. And we have the double recall. I do love the double recall. Recall towards Mama, recall towards the Nexus. Those are the only two ways for Protoss to quickly maneuver around the map, and they do not share a cooldown. It's gonna be a little bit until he has those abilities again. I don't know why he sacrificed the probes. Like, the probe sacrifice kinda... It makes no sense. Like, he decided to send in a lot of workers, but that seemed a bit early to me. I wonder if it's a misclick, but it seemed a very deliberate play. Because they went all the way from here to right over there. That seems like a long distance to go. There's no reason to have your probes hotkeyed at that point in the game. So I'm a little confused as to how he accidentally sent 20 probes to their deaths. Makes me wonder if it was on purpose, because he's not actually remaking them either, while he is re-expanding over on the right side of the map. It does open up more supply, of course, for more carriers. He's now got 9 of those bad boys. Air Weapons level 2 is going to finish up. Banger upgrade, a really good upgrade for the Skytals. And I don't think this Terran army is good enough. Nah. I mean, how many Vikings is that? It's 16 Vikings, that's decent. But it's not great. One storm on them and they can all disappear. Yeah, I think the probe sacrifice was actually on purpose. One thing that's really nice though for ByuN's is that he's been continuously upgrading his units a little bit more deliberately. Classic has had that second Cybercore. Yeah, he realizes it right now as well. He's had that second Cybercore, but he's only just now going into the +2. Not that Terran is significantly ahead or whatever in that department, but I think Classic should have been a little bit further along. Storms! Big storms! Careful, careful, careful. He's literally weathering the storm over here. Only 2 Templar remain. They're probably inside of a mineral line right now. The Mama ship Mama survives? No! Go back in there, Mom! She's not supposed... What? This wasn't in the playbook? Wow. Can't believe it. We had a big fight and the mothership actually lives. In the meantime, Terran's happily macroing up. He's doing it off of a good economy, but not an amazing economy. It's quite difficult for Terran to now expand from this position. Like, yeah, he's got a lot of gas. Yeah, he's going into Liberators, and that's nice and all, but he needs to be a little careful. He's just made about a gajillion command centers. He's gonna go up to about 10 orbitals, which is nice. But those orbitals need some time before they can really pay for themselves. That's one carrier going down, second carrier in a lot of trouble. Nice storm as well, though, from Classic. ByuN trying to make the best of this scenario. He realizes he needs to get some time. And Classic is not really giving it to him so far. Classic has made that base over here. Still just sitting at 65 workers. Cloaking gets activated on the Mama ship here to try and keep some of these dudes alive. Protoss here is looking for an angle. Oh, there she goes again. She's getting kicked out of the nest. Fly, you fool! Says the rest of the Protoss. And I think we're going to try and do the same play. ByuN is going to see a little exclamation point. Is it an observer? Is it a zealot? Is it a warp? It's a Mama ship! There she is. Rinse and repeat, baby. He's going to do the exact same thing. Can we pop a time warp on that? Nah, it wasn't necessary last time. I agree. Do we recall back home right now? Apparently that also is not necessary. The mothership still lives. Lovely place right here from Classic, though. I always loved the idea of the mass recall. Cloak gets once again activated. The mothership is gonna get shot at, but for now it lives. Okay, never mind, guys. She's dead. Ultimately, everything goes back to normal. Thank God. I was getting a little bit concerned. There's a nuke on the production tab here as well for ByuN, who's now taken an expansion in the far top right. Classic decides to go back home. He's just trying to make as many gateway units as he can. Suddenly remaxing. It's good, but also a little risky, because these are low-tier units against a high-tier Terran army. But only 3 Liberators remain, actually. It's not really that much. He's now found the base as well in the top right-hand corner, and Zealots are going to be able to make quick work of that. And these are quite expensive mules. I mean, obviously, they only cost energy. In the meantime, there's a big fight over here. But those, yeah, that energy takes a lot of time to accumulate, so getting the snipes on that is actually massive. Classic is now leading this game by nearly 50 supply. Additional carriers coming up, a nice storm right there, connecting with basically all of the Terran units. And I think Classic may be onto something with that Skytos transition timing. Maybe the age of the Dark Templar is over, man. The age of being a gateway printer. Maybe that's not necessary. He's at 14 gateways. Quite a lot considering the game, but we've seen a lot of Protoss players go like 25 gates as of late. This is Classic finding the opportunity, the perfect moment it seems, to make the late game transition. And maybe it's something he does specifically against ByuN, because ByuN is a pretty passive man. When he starts playing the macro game, usually he sits back, and then he sits back, and he sits back some more. So maybe it's something Classic specifically does against ByuN, but at least from looking at these games, I think Classic has found a really nice opportunity to make that mid to late game transition. Still though, there's been a lot of mules dropped around this game. 7 orbitals still remain, which is not bad at all. ByuN has a gajillion gas in the bank, but no easy way to spend it. And that's because he spends so much of his money on those command centers itself, right? So you need a couple mules to land before it's really worthwhile. Great control here by ByuN. Great movement here in general. Oh, those storms are really good as well, though. Like, I wanted to start complimenting, like, I wanted to mention the EMPs have been on point, but honestly, Classic has been doing a really good job with his AoE damage, too. I wonder if there's actually just enough for Classic to just push through this right now. High Templar constantly sending in the storms. Classic tempted to go into the natural. I don't know if that's the play, but he wants to try and get on top of that Terran's production. Keep in mind that Mama is out again. So recall is back on the menu. I would love to see the Protoss go into the main base right now and then for the mothership to like do a recall towards the right side or whatever. That would be kind of sick. And ByuN right now is rallying his new units into the Skytos, which is a suboptimal way to play, to say the least. Difficult here for Terran to get back into their own main. The storms are absolutely lethal. Couple Archons coming up. Another storm coming up. GG is cold. And just like that, it's Classic who wins the KSL finals. 3-2 over ByuN.